Okay, so welcome everyone to Brand 101. I'm Amanda Hildebrand, and I'm a member of the Brand Council, and I'm here to talk to you about how the brand works. So get excited. Okay, so don't fall asleep, but please close your eyes for a moment and just think of a brand that you know well. Seriously, close your eyes, people. Think of a brand that you know well, and it could be something that you're brand loyal to, maybe a brand that you actually don't like. So think of that for a few seconds. Okay, so I'm not going to actually call on any of you, and you can open your eyes, to tell me what brand you chose, but I will tell you what brand I am brand loyal to, which is Dove soap. And the reason that I'm brand loyal to it is because that's what my mom bought when I was young, and so, you know, it reminds me of my childhood, and even though soap is a bit antiquated today, I have switched to Dove body wash. But yeah, you know, in the decision-making process when I'm at the store, I choose Dove, and there's a reason for that. It's because of that emotional attachment that I have to the brand, and it's also because it performs well every time. I get exactly what I expect from that product, you know, never lets me down. So that's important. And so there are a ton of brands out there that I'm sure you're familiar with, and these all stand for something. You know, and what they stand for differentiates them in the marketplace. And something I want to make sure that I get across today is, you know, brand is so much more than a logo. And the reason for that is because a brand is like a person. This is the analogy I'm going to use all day long. So when you think of a person, you don't think about just the way they look, right? And you don't judge them solely by that because that would be shallow and wrong. So we don't do that. And so, you know, when we talk about how to define brand and you want to think of it as a person, think about, you know, what people think of you before they meet you. You know, what kind of reputation do you already have? And then what do they think when they are meeting you in the moment? You know, what is your attitude like? What's your body language like? And then what do they think about you and say about you after they've had that impression of you? You know, is it a good thing? Do they want to work with you again? Are they like, no, I don't want to ever see that person again? So that's really important. I think if you think of brand in that way, it's a lot more helpful than just thinking of it as that visual logo. So when we talk about it being translated into the corporate realm, there are some ingredients. Just like there are ingredients to a person. You could, you know, say that a person has their own positioning statement, has their own architecture, obviously personality, verbal identity, visual identity, and their behavior. So I'm going to move through each of these individually, and the first one is positioning. So your positioning statement is really and truly what makes you unique, what makes you distinctive, and it's that one singular word or phrase that comes to mind when you think of someone. So, you know, when you think of the Ritz-Carlton, it's ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Imagination at work for GE. For JetBlue, bringing humanity to air travel. And these are typically internal. It's something that employees can refer to. It's also the brand promise and what it stands for when a customer interacts with it. Architecture. So this is how you present yourself to various audiences. So I'm sure some of the ladies in here know what Charming Charlie's is, right? So, and if you gentlemen don't, I'm going to explain it. It's a cute little retail store, and when you walk in, everything is organized by color. So, you know, if I have an outfit that I need a pink accessory for, I just go straight to the pink section. You know, Charming Charlie's could have done it by, you know, accessory type, earrings, scarves, whatever, but they chose to do it by color because that says something about them. I don't know what their positioning statement is, but I'm sure it's something that's fun and, you know, we're fun and bright. I don't know. And so they're organized by color. And you can see that GE is actually an enterprise brand or a master brand, which is what we are. And I'll talk about that later. And GE, everything that they do, they want you to know that it's GE, as opposed to Unilever, which is a branded house. And they have a lot of, you know, brand equity in their sub-brands. So that's why they choose to go with just keeping, oh, Dove is there. I didn't even know that this whole time I've been practicing for this presentation. So, you know, this is just different ways that you can organize. Personality. So, this is more of like the fun thing about a person or about a brand. With Virgin, they're very witty and brash and entrepreneurial. And that comes across in everything that they do. And we'll talk about in a second here, your personality really informs your tone of voice, which is your verbal identity. So JetBlue is a great example. We were saying how their internal positioning statement is you bring humanity to air travel. So they're not going to sound stiff and boring and like other, airlines might sound. So they're talking, jetting ain't rocket science, so it's fun, it's enthusiastic. And so I think that that's, a really easy way to see how that all translates from positioning statement to personality to their verbal identity. Visual identity. So again, the logo, your color palette, your font types. When you look at Dow, it's a chemical company. And their logo really shows that elemental feel, it's a diamond shape. They're really concerned for human progress. So they have a lot of, earthy colors. It makes you feel like it's very human. Their font is, in a script, like it's handwritten, illustrations. So you get that impression of their brand from their visual elements. This is probably the biggest one. So, behavior. This pretty much sums up everything about your brand. If I was looking at, myself as the brand and the person, and I say that, my personality type is that I'm outgoing, well, then my behavior better reflect that, right? It wouldn't make sense if I was sort of quiet and shy, but I'm saying I'm outgoing. So this is a really good example of how Nordstrom's behavior really reflects their brand promise. Some of you might have heard this, in school, but of how a customer tried to return a tire to Nordstrom, who sells shoes and accessories and whatnot. But that employee knew how they should act because they are the brand, and they knew right away that I better, get this tire returned. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And so that's a really important example of how we all have to embody the brand. And when you put all these things together, that really shows, that whole person. So there are a lot of benefits to a strong brand, and I'm going to move through each of these. So it really serves as a strategic filter. Now, a lot of companies, they function like this, where brand is just one more element of all these other functions. But what you really want to get to is that it's really a filter for decision-making for your business. So a good example of this in my mind is Disney World. So Disney World's positioning statement, so that internal promise that they, exude externally, is we make people happy. So I don't know when this happened. I think I read that it was like 2003. But they used to have this ride in the Magic Kingdom called Alien Encounter, and it was really scary. Like, I went there in college with my family, and there's this crazy alien in the middle, and it's really scary, and then everything goes black, and then this alien's like touching you, and it's freaky. So if Disney World's positioning statement is we make people happy, it's not we scare the crap out of people. So they took that ride out of Disney World, right? So that's how it informs your decision making as an organization. I think I was like in college and still scared to death, so yeah, it's not cool. Business performance, so this is another huge benefit. So internally, clarity of purpose, motivator for employees. If you've ever read the book Good to Great, it talks about how if you as an employee, if you know what your core purpose is, it energizes you because you know what your focus is and what you're working toward every day. It also is, there's efficiencies in marketing and graphic design, and there's efficiencies for everybody because we're all on the same page. And it's that filter for decision making. Externally, it's that recognition in the marketplace. Just like I go and I pick Dove every time. Because for me, it differentiates itself from other companies because of, the quality of the product. It also helps you to keep your customers and attract new ones. I like to think of it too as that consistency, and again, going back to the person example, if every time you interact with me, every time one of you works with me and I'm inconsistent, one day I'm happy, one day I'm sad, and I'm just this really moody person, you're not going to pick me to work with. You're going to be like, no, I'm going to pick somebody else. She's crazy. So, it's really important to be consistent as a brand because your customers, your members, your volunteers, they want to know what they get from you every time. It's, we're all like that. Nobody has moody friends. And if you do, you're not friends with them anymore. So another benefit is the ROI. So again, if you look at Intel, with this campaign, they saw that their sales rose 63%. And then within a 4-year period, their logo recognition increased by 300%. So there's a huge correlation there between, brand recognition and then also increased sales. I mean, it makes sense, right? So this is just another example of a benefit of real market value. So this, again, just shows you, from 1 to 25, Coke being number 1, that they're super recognizable, the strength of their brand, the strength of the brand, again, in that decision-making process. And the last one is a price premium. I mean, the strength of Apple is so much more than any other brand that they can actually charge more for the same technology. So moving on to why all of this matters. And I'm going to take a drink right now because I'm getting my little dry mouth. So, we all know that we have a mission of growing globally, getting, more customers, more members, more volunteers globally. And the only way we're going to do this is if we're all on the same page. We want to strengthen the core. We want to have sustainable growth. We want to diversify and go into new markets and industries. And the only way we're going to do that is if the brand is strong. So I'm just going to move through who we are, how we're organized, what we sound like, and what we look like. So I know a lot of this gets a little cumbersome because there's a lot of terminology, but brand pillars. So when we talk about the positioning statement, which is also synonymous for brand platform, so not to confuse you there too, but if you think of the positioning statement / platform as something that is held up by these pillars, I think that makes a lot of sense. So the pillars are actually something that defines it just a little bit further. So I don't know, if Disney World's positioning statement and platform is we make people happy, maybe a pillar is, we always tell jokes or something. I don't know what that is. But so you can understand that it really helps to further define it. So we have 5 of them. Definitive authority, which talks about how we're the world's leader in mobility engineering. Practical knowledge, as opposed to theoretical. Like we have the stuff that you need that is practical and you can just start using right now. Powering innovation. We're always moving forward. We have the tools and the resources that are new and exciting. Collaborative network. This is hugely what we are, right? I mean, the members, the volunteers, us as employees. I mean, we're this huge network of really the best and brightest minds. And then simple and straightforward. No one wants to hang out with a person, again, that is complex and moody and all of these things. So we want to be simple. We want to have it make sense, be succinct right away to our customers. Platform, positioning statement. Again, it's that unifying purpose that guides an organization, and it really helps us with our long-term success, and it helps our customers and members know exactly what we stand for. It's not a slogan or a tagline. It's not something that's typically used externally, and you'll see that here. So we are the ultimate knowledge source, and I'm going to read this to you just because it's very important. SAE International is the ultimate knowledge source for mobility engineers, serving as the nexus to connect them to the people and solutions they seek. Solutions are achieved by accessing SAE's multi-sector, multi-formatted technology content collection that is developed with, by, and for global engineering professionals, making it the highest quality, most trusted, and comprehensive source for vehicle engineering innovations. Now that is a mouthful, but it should be, because it's not this gobbledygook where you don't even know what ultimate knowledge source means. And this is used internally. This doesn't go on a brochure. But you can't say that you don't understand what ultimate knowledge source means when you read that. So we'll move into the personality attributes. So, again, thinking of a person, this is just what defines you as who you are as an individual. And the brand personality attributes really inform the tone of voice and the way we speak and the way we write, and then also our visual identity. So our personality traits are that we're pioneering, dynamic, and precise. We're pioneering because we're always blazing new paths. We're moving forward. We're innovative. We're dynamic because we're enthusiastic about these things. I mean, we're the people that are helping the industry and the engineers figure out like all the exciting stuff for the future. That's exciting. And we're precise. We're simple and straightforward again. We're, very exacting with ourselves, and we take a very measured approach to what we do. So to put it all together, if you think of it this way, as the brand platform needs to be held up by these brand pillars that help define further ultimate knowledge source and the personality attributes, I think this starts to make a bit more sense. So how we're organized. So just like GE, we have a master brand strategy, and that means that everything has SAE on it, visually and verbally. We don't want anyone to be confused when they interact with us or one of our other affiliates or anything else, that it's anyone else but SAE. So, and the reason we chose a master brand strategy is we have a lot of stuff going on here, if no one ever noticed that. And so it's a lot easier for our customers to see the full value of our offerings if it's one condensed story. And we really do just have one story. It's that cradle-to-grave story of lifelong learning. And it maximizes efficiencies and cost savings. And I already said this, able to tell a very cohesive, integrated story across the organization. I think it's a lot easier, too, internally as employees. Again, that connection to the core, that core thing that we're all marching toward. So the next component of our architecture is the organizational brand architecture. And this is basically our affiliates, our subsidiary companies. So you'll see, okay, so business affiliates, that is like PRI. And then subsidiary companies, that's something that we've acquired, like Tech Briefs Media Group. Geographic partners, SAE India. Sectors that we've already talked about. Sections and chapters, related to membership. And then we also have local offices, like a China office. And the big difference with this and why this is, so important is because there was a time when an SAE International whatever wasn't part of how we were talking about ourselves. So now it's super important as a master brand to make sure that that's part of this. Tech Briefs Media Group, an SAE International company. So everyone starts to, again, affiliate all of this stuff with us. So what we sound like. Tone of voice. So again, this is informed by our personality. And our personality is pioneering, dynamic, and precise. So now we need to sound that way. If my personality is an outgoing one, I'm not going to talk all quiet and not use big words and say goofy things sometimes, because that's what an outgoing person would do. So now that we're saying that we are these three things, we need to sound that way. Also, I will be doing a tone of voice training in June for anybody that wants to come to that and learn more about how to write in our tone of voice. I think that'll be a pretty good little workshop because we'll actually do some writing activities. And I've been saying all along that the brand is a person, and we do have an SAE International Character. It's really someone that is wise, someone that you would look to for advice all the time. With the internet and everything that's out there nowadays, I mean, you could get anything you wanted off the internet, right? But there's a reason that you go still to certain companies. I mean, I get InStyle magazine, and I could easily just Google fashion advice and get it from anybody, but I choose InStyle because I think that they have the definitive word on style and fashion. So that's where we have to get to with SAE, is that someone would constantly choose us because we're this wise advisor that really brings the best minds together. And I already said this. Our tone of voice is precise, dynamic, and pioneering. And so what does that mean? Precise means that when we talk about our communications, they are exacting and considered. They're succinct. We don't beat around the bush with what we're trying to tell people. We're simple and straightforward. And this means in writing that we favor simple sentence structure, and we don't use extra words just for the heck of it. We use a lot of facts and proof points. When we talk about how do we, show that we're dynamic, we speak energetically and enthusiastically. We vary the rhythm of our sentences and the way we, write and talk. It's not monotonous. We use an active voice as opposed to passive. And we select really powerful verbs, explore, discover. And that's the way we're going to come across as dynamic to our audiences. When we talk about pioneering, we want to be inspirational. So how do we do that? We tell a lot of stories, a lot of, success stories. We choose words that evoke a sense of inspiration and fearlessness. And, in your writing too, a big one is we ask questions of our audience to really kind of provoke them. And then finally, what we look like, which, from the very beginning I said it's so much more than this, and I hope that I've, explained how it is so much more than this, but this is super important still, obviously, because this is a lot of times the first thing people see. And so this is our refresh logo. And, when we look at this, it's very bold, it's modern, it's simple and straightforward. It's all the things that we say that we are. The integration of the letter forms, it's really about telling that cohesive story. The angle of the A, it shows that we're pioneering and moving forward. So I think, it really does show that this is who we are. And this obviously shows our color palette and some of the photography and different ways to use the logo. But, even look at the photography. I mean, it's dynamic. It's moving forward. It shows, I don't know, I think it's pretty inspirational. So, at the end of the day, and I think I've made this fairly clear, that every one of us is so critical to making this brand a success. I think this is exciting because I think it does, it really puts us all together as working toward that core purpose, being that true team. So just a final little quote, every day we move forward and every day we are moved, and together we'll continue to move industries forward. So if I haven't expressed that enough, that this is really something that all of us need to do together and work together on every day, I think this is a nice little way to sum it all up.